At 10 with the latest for the West Midlands, I'm Josh Sanderford. First this morning, the bin strike could soon be over after Birmingham City Council leader John Cotton announced a deal was in sight. The Unite Union will now vote on the terms, but opposition parties have branded the news a cynical election stunt. Our political reporter Catherine Stancheshin has the details.
In one way, this is a really significant moment because John Cotton there saying it's a breakthrough, saying it's within sight, saying they are putting something together now that Unite is happy with. And then we heard from Unite and they said, yes, it's a deal that we can get behind. We understand that it's up to £16,000 in compensation for workers that would be being downgraded. So their salary would go down in the future, but they'd have this sort of sliding scale of compensation to help them for a couple of years. And that's what they were wanting in the first place.
Well, reaction coming in from residents this morning. Lorraine lives in Kings Norton. She's had piles of recycling in her hallway for more than a year.
I mean, it's good that the expression light at the end of the tunnel's being heard, because I think some of us were thinking the tunnel had been blocked up.
Well, Bishop Dr Desmond Jadu had been calling on the council to end the industrial action. He told BBC Radio WM he welcomed the announcement but also wants action.
It's taken far too long, but we are where we are now. I've been looking at the responses on social media and there are some people saying, oh, it's quite convenient. But convenience or not, it's important that we start cleaning up our city.
Well, you can find the latest political reaction from all the main parties on the BBC's dedicated Birmingham and Black Country website.
We also have to talk bin strikes today, and I really want to hear from you on this. This was the breaking news yesterday afternoon. Leader of the council, John Cotton.
This has been a challenging and complex process, but after months of hard work on the principles and parameters of a deal, I believe a new improved offer can be made and terms put in place that address the ballpark issues discussed at ACAS, that Unite members can agree in order to end the strike once and for all.
How confident are you that this indeed will mean the end of the bin strikes? 81333 WM to start your message. You and I have been talking about this, well, ever since I've been here on air, literally just over a year, and we've had this conversation numerous times. We've had a hot seat with John Cotton. I'll play you a bit of that in a minute. We've talked to Unite. We've talked to many experts. I've talked to you about the impact of the bin strikes, the impact of not having your recycling collected for over a year. And then this announcement yesterday from the leader of Birmingham City Council, John Cotton. But how confident are you that this will bring about an end to it? An end to this long, sorry, tortured saga? So let's just go through this a little bit. It looks like this is a deal that's been done. I say a deal. Nothing's been signed. So let's call it an agreement between the Labour Party and the union. So we could surmise from that not through council officers. The commissioners are still in place. They're still overseeing operations. So the questions we could ask are, has this been costed? Has this been approved? John Cotton has said nothing will be formally agreed until after the election. So is there anything new here? There's nothing signed. There's nothing done. So what does this announcement actually mean? And let's just think about the timing of this. We are literally just over a week out from the local elections. You might be asking yourself, well, how much of a deal is this? Or is it, as some have suggested, merely a ploy to get votes and buy some time? Could say kick the can down the road a little bit so they can sort it out when and if they stay in power. And what if they don't? If there's another party in charge or a coalition, as a lot of the polls have suggested, they will inherit this quote-unquote deal. The unions are expecting them to follow through with this deal that we don't know if it's been costed and agreed. How confident are you this means the end of the bin strikes? 81333. WM to start your message. Give me a call on this. Your view, your opinion is the most important thing here. Ed, I know this sounds bad, but I bet if you ask the listeners, they would all agree. I don't care if the bin strikes never get settled. The temporary bin workers are pleasant, tidy, quiet, and they're every week. They're not all jaywalking and on their phones like our normal guys, says Hubcat. Do you agree? Do you care? Do you care about the bin strikes? Or actually, are you thinking, well, my bins are being emptied. I don't really care who's doing it, if they're employed, if it's agency staff. I don't care about the mechanics of it. The service is being done. I guess where it kind of gets a little bit tricky is the recycling, which isn't being collected. Tell me, how confident are you that this could be the end of the bin strikes? 81333 WM to start your message. The leader of Birmingham City Council, John Cotton, unexpectedly made this announcement yesterday.
This has been a challenging and complex process, but after months of hard work on the principles and parameters of a deal, I believe a new improved offer can be made and terms put in place that address the ballpark issues discussed at ACAS, that unite members can agree in order to end the strike once and for all.
A lot of words there. What's he actually saying? Unite will now vote on the terms. A lot of the details are confidential, so there's not lots that we know. But what we do know is that it's based on a ballpark agreement made at Conciliation Service ACAS last year. Now, reports suggest the deal would include £16,000 for workers whose roles have been downgraded. Here is the reaction from union leader Onay Kassab.
The fact that we've now got this out in the open means that any party that's standing for election, if they come in and they scupper any of this, then it will be on their heads.
It's interesting, isn't it? So whoever gets overall control, or whatever that looks like in terms of a coalition, Onay's view is, well, the deal's kind of agreed. So if it falls apart, it's on whoever takes over. Let me just play you this. This is John Cotton's position on a bin deal when he came onto this show in the hot seat on the 3rd of March.
I want to find a resolution to this, but I also have a duty to ensure we do not repeat the mistakes of the past and we don't further sink this council around the equals pay debt spiral again. We've done a lot of work over the last couple of years to turn that around and address that and finally bring that to a close. That has to be the starting point.
But reports suggest the deal would include £16,000 for workers whose roles are being downgraded. Can the council afford that? Would that open up equal pay again? How confident are you that this deal could bring an end to the 14-month bin strike? Tell me. 81333 WM to start your message. George and Derek both did years of service on the bins before being made compulsory redundant by Birmingham City Council. Now, they spoke to Sarah Julian this morning. They're feeling a little bit sceptical about this.
It's good news or it's bad news. Is it just an election campaign thing? Or is it real? Until the members are given it in writing, it's not real, is it?
Cautious optimism, really, for the friends and colleagues who are still left on the picket line, but without any great level of expectation it'll actually get over the line, to be honest. This deal supposedly is vertically identical framework agreement that was agreed back in July and taken from the table and deemed unlawful. So the question I'd ask, and I think a lot of people will ask, is how has this deal, it's allegedly been improved as well. So it seems a bit far-fetched to me. For the likes of myself and George, it's come too late in the day, because obviously we're long-serving drivers who was... what I would say is the council have misled people throughout this dispute, in my opinion, regards the scope and scale of the pay cuts. We was going to be losing up to £8,000 and our only other option was to take redundancy. There's no other options on the table. So to suggest otherwise is misleading the public, and I think they've been misled throughout, to be honest.
George and Derek both had years of service on the bins, giving their reaction to this news with Sarah Julian this morning. Questions, I guess. What has taken so long? Why now? We're a week away from the elections. And how confident are you that this is indeed the end of the bin strikes? Let's find out what could happen next and if this deal does indeed balance the books. And I guess the big question is, can we afford it? Because we've been told up to this point the council can't afford it, both in terms of the financial cost and the potential equal pay liability that could come off the back of it. Now it seems they've solved both of those issues. But have they? James Brackley is a lecturer in accounting at the University of Glasgow. He was also one of a group of academics and financial experts who called for a public inquiry to look into how Birmingham City Council declared itself bankrupt effectively in 2023. And he joins us now. James, good morning.
Morning, Ed. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. Interested to get your views so you can help us pick through this, because there's a lot to it and I guess a lot we don't know. But can the council afford to offer each bin worker £16,000?
Yeah, I think short answer would be yes. The general lesson of these disputes is it's more expensive to continue the dispute than it is to end it. The numbers involved look like around maybe £4 or £5 million. If you look at the council's own recent cabinet papers, they've already spent over £33 million on agency workers, lost earnings over recycling and things like that. So in terms of the direct payment, yes, they can definitely afford it. But that then brings us on to the equal pay question.
I'll get on to the equal pay question in a minute, but just to go back to that, so it's cost an extra £33 million. I guess a lot of people will be asking, well, if that's how much it's costing, why haven't they sorted this earlier?
So it goes back to last summer. This framework or ballpark agreement was thrashed out through ACAS with council officers, and then it was the commissioners who stepped in to block that, according to public reports. So there does seem to be a sort of a commissioner narrative on this, maybe ideological. We can speculate as to the reasons. The other big reason, again, is there an equal pay liability here or not? The commissioners took the view that there was. That looks quite questionable now that we look at the details of this.
So you think it won't lead to an equal pay claim?
I think it would be limited. So the exposure would be in relation to, as you say, the direct payment. That's time limited. So it's like a one-off payment. The argument would be, well, this is compensation for, downgrading and loss of office. All the council workers aren't facing those situations. So it wouldn't be creating an equal pay liability. But if it did, again, it would be quite limited because it's limited to a one-off payment, essentially, rather than an ongoing disparity in the workforce. And we already know that the council has effectively budgeted and made asset sales for a much bigger £760 million equal pay figure. So we know they've effectively got the money set aside for a much larger settlement as well. So I don't really see that as a barrier or as a reason, even if you did assume that there was some sort of exposure here. I don't think that is unaffordable.
And I guess that backs up what the union have said all along, that their legal advice has claimed it wouldn't lead to an equal pay claim.
I think so, yeah. And you've also got to look at the other elements of this. So they're talking about permanent employment for agency workers. They're talking about protecting pensions for striking workers. They're talking about ending some of the disciplinary action against striking workers as well. So there's a lot of things here that don't really have a big cost implication at all, which I think are also, quite important part of the mix here to ending this dispute.
So how likely do you think then this agreement between the Labour group leader and Unite will become a reality? What has to happen next? What process does it have to go through?
Well, there's a formal process, but in reality, we need the political leadership of the council to stand up to the commissioners. I think this is what this comes down to. The commissioners were imposed by Michael Gove in 2023, and then nationally, the Labour Party seemed to have essentially backed that intervention in 2024. And this is the first time we've really heard moves from the Labour Party in Birmingham pushing back against the commissioners. And the implication here seems to be, when you look at the involvement of people like Lucy Powell and Richard Parker, that there is some kind of national backing. So that would mean that there's potentially the commissioners could be removed if they don't support this now. So there is now a route out of this. That route is interesting, to say the least, that this has come out just a few days before the local election. Why on earth they didn't do this last summer, who knows? But there is a route out of this, I think, for whoever takes charge following the 7th of May.
Just on that, I mean, you're absolutely right. We can't ignore the timing of this. We are just over a week away from the elections. John Cotton is now trying to claim they have a solution. Hasn't gone through the processes. Some people may say this is just trying to make Labour look good.
Yeah, you may well say that indeed. I mean, I've had a lot of frustrations throughout this. Our analysis of the council's finances was that the finances were much better than was first reported. They cut much too deeply, too quickly. The asset sales were unnecessary. So we've felt that the intervention hasn't been delivering best value for Birmingham for quite some time, and there has been a frustration at the lack of political willingness to push back against this intervention. But, I suppose this has to be welcomed, that there is at least an attempt to end the impasse. I very much hope that they would now also look at things like the asset sales and the cuts agenda that the commissioners have pushed through as well in very undemocratic circumstances, you have to say. At the end of the day, if we're going to the polls, if we're voting in leadership of the council, you expect that leadership to have some agency over key decisions like this, that affects the people of Birmingham.
Finally, and on that point, Unite's One Kasaba's called for other political groups to support this agreement if they get in after the elections. But obviously, as you've talked about, there's the officials and the commissioners as well that have to agree to it. Could this be seen as a way to set up a potential new leader for a fall?
Well, I don't think so. I think it comes down to whether this is affordable and whether this creates some sort of, new equal pay disaster. And I just don't see that that's the case. So I think this does offer a genuine route out of this dispute. But it just comes at such a time that who knows what's going to happen. You could well have no overall control of the council.
Well, exactly. What happens then?
Well, indeed. So you'd need to get some sort of political consensus around this deal. So it just begs the question as to why this wasn't done earlier. It would have been much simpler if the leadership of the council, the political leadership, had come to this view last summer.
James, appreciate your time. Thank you. James Brackley, a lecturer in accounting at the University of Glasgow, with his views on John Cotton's announcement yesterday that a tacit agreement has been reached between the council and the union. What's your view? Is it a positive thing? Could this finally mean an end to the 14-month bin strikes? How confident are you that we've moved it forward? 81333 WM to start your message. Zack Polanski, leader of the Green Party, is live with us at 10 to 11 this morning. So 20 minutes time, you'll hear the leader of the Greens talking to you about why the Greens should get your vote in the local elections. We're going to obviously get Zack's view on the bin strikes as well. But if you've got a question for Zack or you want me to put anything forward, leader of Birmingham City Council, John Cotton, yesterday basically held an impromptu press conference saying a deal had been reached in principle with Unite the Union. How confident are you that this will be an end to the 14-month-long Birmingham bin strike? I know you're bored of talking about it. I know you're bored of hearing it. I'm bored of hearing myself say the words bin strikes. But here's where we are. And it's a big issue, and it comes just over a week away from the local elections. Jackie seems very convenient with the local elections coming up. No faith, no trust. Actions speak louder than words. In this case, she says, seeing it happen, I will believe it, not before. Linda, no, don't agree. After the election, it'll just go back to a no deal. Chris in Sheldon, keep right on. Thank you, Chris. No, they're going to get wiped out, Labour, so they're doing deals to cause problems for Reform to deal with. Once again, we are treated with contempt. If they had their way, we wouldn't even get a vote, says Chris. Morning, the bin strikes was caused by the incompetence of Birmingham City Labour Council. They're insulting people with this before a local election, taking people for fools, says Anthony in Smethwick. Audrey, Ed, it makes no difference. People I know will never bother to recycle again. That's a really interesting point about the recycling as well. We're told, and actually we'll probably speak to Zack Polanski, leader of the Greens, about this in 15 minutes' time. Well, 10 minutes' time now in terms of the importance of recycling and environmental policies and, being good to the planet. But yet we haven't been able to recycle here for well over a year. How important actually is it? How important do you feel it is? Ed James here with you, 17 minutes to 11, getting reaction this morning to the news that a deal might have been reached to see the end, finally, of the Birmingham bin strikes. 14 months of all-out industrial action. And you don't need me to tell you what's been happening. We've seen the rubbish on the streets. We've seen no recycling. We've seen rats. And we've, kind of even worse, seen the headlines going around the world of rats. The kind of image of our city and indeed region has been pretty much tarnished. The council leader, John Cotton, said that he and Unite the Union have agreed in principle in the disputes over a loss of some of the waste jobs and changes to pay. So it's kind of a ballpark agreement made at Conciliation Service ACAS last year. But what do people on the streets think about it? What do you think about it? The Emperor of the Black Country, Josh, has been out and about in Birmingham today, getting your reaction.
Well, I'll be glad to see it come to an end because it's been going on for so long now. You're throwing all your recycle stuff now into normal bins. We've got out the habit of recycling. I've got a cupboard full of cardboard which I've kept to recycle because you can't just keep chucking it in normal bins because I was filling up.
And if this does come through and they start collecting the recycling, how long is it going to take you to get rid of all that cardboard that you've collected?
It'll probably take me 6 months or so.
Do you reckon?
Honestly, I've got a massive box.
If it's already been put out there and they've rejected it, why have they suddenly changed their minds? I mean, I hope they do, and I hope it all gets sorted. You just wonder about the timing. We are the second city, and I think there's a lot of good about Birmingham, and over the years we've promoted the city really well. So I hope, that people don't think about us with rats and cats and things like that. Not that I've ever seen a rat the size of a cat.
Well, it really hasn't made much of a difference to me. I've had my bins picked up with the exception of the garden waste. So coming to an end would be good. I guess I can get my garden stuff out.
And have your streets been clean?
Yes.
Yeah, everything's been fine.
Everything's been fine.
Well, we welcome any solution to the problem, and it really is a problem. But I think, like a lot of people I've spoken to, we're disillusioned. We've had lots of offers on the table, lots of promises that it will be solved, but we just need to see some action. Because we've had, 16 months of it, and we've had lots of other offers, and it will be solved, and it's gone to the union, and nothing's happened. So until it really does happen, and the crews are back on the street and emptying the recycling bins and back to normal, I don't think anybody will believe it.
The council elections are coming up and it could be just, we're doing a good job. And I'd be funny, look at the state of the roads as well and everything. The councils are useless at the moment. You pay all your taxes and and they don't seem to be doing anything. All I can do is wait and see, mate. Until it happens, I won't believe it.
That seems to be the consensus. Wait and see. Until it happens, don't believe it. Your view, please, on this. Are you confident that this could be what we've been waiting for? Finally, an end to the Birmingham bin strikes, and then we never need to say those words again. A big week, just over a week to go till the local elections here in the West Midlands. Special eye on Birmingham as well. And this week, BBC Radio WM. Exciting this. We're hoping to speak to each political party, and we start right now with the leader of the Green Party, Zack Polanski, who joins us live. Zack, good morning.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Very nice to have you. Thank you for being here. I want to start off asking about bin strikes, if I can. The leader of the Labour group has claimed he's agreed a deal with Unite over the long-running bin strikes. The union is calling for all parties to agree to this to make sure it becomes a reality after the election. Will the Greens commit to the deal that Labour have made?
Well, I think right across Birmingham, people will be pleased to see that it looks like there's finally an end to these bin strikes. But how cynical of this Labour council. They should have done this 10 months ago. And do they really expect people to believe 10 days before a local election they've just finally managed to make a deal? Councillors across Birmingham will support a fair deal, but we don't want election gimmicks and we don't want people playing politics with people's lives. I was out on the picket line in the early mornings with those people on the picket line, and I recognise that many people across Birmingham were annoyed and frustrated with those bin strikes, and I get it. Everyone wants to make sure that their city is clean and their bins are taken out on time. I also know people recognise that everyone is facing this toxic combination right now of low wages and high bills, whether you're a bin worker, whether you're a nurse, teacher or a cleaner. So many people are suffering right now as a result of this government's actions. And I don't believe that a Labour council is the answer to a Labour government's own problems.
But will you agree to the deal that Labour have made?
Well, we'll have to see the deal in detail, but ultimately we do want to see an end to these strikes. And I think the bin workers deserve our solidarity and support.
What would your solution to the strikes be then, Zack Polanski?
Well, to make sure that we're paying people fairly for their time, to make sure that they're being treated with dignity, and make sure that we were working with the unions. But that is not what happened over the last 10 months. We saw a Labour treat workers with contempt, refuse to negotiate, and very often be rude about them, whether that was locally or on national air. That's not the way to treat workers who run your city. The way to treat workers is to treat them as an adult human relationship and to recognise that people are struggling right now, and they're struggling as a result of a Labour government. They've committed to austerity. At the same time, you know, they say there's no money left in this country, but you'll have seen that BP today reported £2.3 billion in profits in the first 3 months of this year. At the same time, some people are working 2 jobs just to pay their energy bills. Don't tell us there's no money left. It's very clear where the money's going. It's going to fossil fuel giants, property developers, and multimillionaires and billionaires.
What would the Green Party do to change
what
this?
They deserve.
So what would the Green Party do?
We'd make sure that we were taxing wealth fairly. So let me give you an example. We should bring capital gains tax in line with income tax. Right now, we tax earned income, like a bin worker, more than we tax unearned wealth. That's completely the wrong way round. It means if you're cleaning a building, you could be paying more tax proportionally as the cleaner than the person who owns the building. That's a political choice. It seems absurd. Let's turn it the opposite way round and make different political choices.
And how will that contribute to growth in the economy?
Because ultimately, when people have more money in their public services, when services work better, like our buses, like our bin collections, it means people are able to engage with the local economy more. It means they have more purchasing power rather than just worrying about their energy bills or just paying the price of rent. People are actually able to enjoy a pint in the pub, be able to go for a meal to the theatre, to be able to go see their favourite team play. All of this adds to a local economy. Rather than the money being siphoned off to multimillionaires and billionaires and to foreign investors, local money stays in the local economy. That's good for Birmingham and right across the West Midlands.
I want to ask you about affordable homes for people that need them. A lot of communities here, especially in the Black Country and indeed across the region, concerned about losing greenbelt land, which is at a huge premium, especially in urban areas. Can you promise, on behalf of the Green Party, that green space will be protected?
Well, the first promise is we will always look at brownfield sites first, and there are still plenty of them to build on. We need to build the right homes in the right place at the right price. It's important to say that we live in a nature-depleted country, one of the most nature-depleted countries in the world. And so it's really important in a nature crisis that we protect our green space. And far too often, the reason why Greenbelt is being built on is because, again, property developers are building luxury, unaffordable skyscrapers and buildings that no one will ever live in, and they're building them for profit. We need to reject that model and make sure we're building council homes and social homes, also where there are buildings going up, that they are rent controlled. It's outrageous right now that private renters, up to 50% of them, are one paycheck away from losing their home. There's no need for this to happen. It's because of greed. Let's stop that greed and make sure that councils are building homes people can afford and actually live in.
I'm getting quite a few texts about fuel prices. Would the Green Party put up fuel tax, Zack Polanski?
We'll have to look at this when it comes to the budget, which, by the way, is the same thing that the government are saying, because you have to look at the economy holistically when we get to the autumn. More widely, though, what I can say now is we would absolutely be investing in public transport. We know that the poorest households are 5 times less likely to have access to a car. So yesterday, I launched a policy to say we need to bring buses into public control. That's so we can reduce fares and make sure that there's proper accessible routes. Right now, infrequent routes and the lack of bus routes is costing the UK economy £23 billion. It's really important that we invest in buses, trains, cycle routes, so people don't always have to get in a car. I understand for some people there's no other route, And that's unacceptable. That's why we need to make sure we build the alternatives before we look at how do we reduce car use.
Last question. Local elections just over a week away. What does success look like for the Greens in the West Midlands, Zack?
Well, I'm confident but not complacent that we are going to have our most successful election result in history. But we're not resting on our laurels. Every single day in the next 10 days, we're going to be out there talking to people about our plans to build social homes, to provide support for energy bills, and make sure that councillors have only two vested interests: to protect the communities they serve and to protect the environment. That's what every Green vote gets on Thursday, May the 7th. So get out there and vote Green.
And you'll be here in Brum?
I'll certainly be visiting.
All right, Zack Polanski, appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Zack Polanski, leader of the Green Party, on air live to talk to you about why the Greens should get your vote. We're going to speak to representatives from all political parties over the next week or so. We have leader of the Lib Dems, Ed Davey, live in 50 minutes' time at 10 to 12. Your reaction to what Zack Polanski has just said. Has he convinced you? 81333 WM to start your message. We'll get some reaction to that just after the news at 11.
On the BBC Sounds app, on your smart speaker.
Play BBC Radio WM.
And on your radio. The sound of the West Midlands is
BBC Radio WM.
At 11 with the latest for the West Midlands, I'm Josh Sandiford. First this morning, the bin strike could soon be over after Birmingham City Council leader John Cotton announced a deal was in sight. The Unite Union will now vote on the terms, but opposition parties have branded the news a cynical election stunt. In the last few minutes, the National Green Party leader Zack Polanski has been speaking to Ed.
Right across Birmingham, people will be pleased to see that it looks like there's finally an end to these bin strikes, but how cynical of this Labour Council. They should have done this 10 months ago. And do they really expect people to believe 10 days before a local election they've just finally managed to make a deal?
Well, we've also been asking for your reaction to yesterday's announcement. Judith Wally lives in Hockley.
Whilst they've been not doing our bins properly, they have suddenly delivered us wheelie bins. So I've gone from trying to dodge huge piles of black bags when I'm on my scooter to now that we've got wheelie bins all stuck out in the street because none of us have got anywhere else to put them.
Community leaders weighing in too. Bishop Dr Desmond Jadu called on the council to end the industrial action earlier this year. He says it's damaged the city's global reputation.
He's been to America. I had a friend go to Hajj in Saudi Arabia. He went there and all they were talking about was bins and Birmingham. The facts are, at the end of the day, we're a great city, we're a vibrant city, however, we've been let down.
Well, you can find all the latest political reaction from all the main parties on the BBC's dedicated Birmingham and Black Country website.
We spoke to the leader of the Greens, Zack Polanski, earlier on at 10 to 11. If you want to spin that back on BBC Sounds, we now speak to leader of the Liberal Democrats, Ed Davey, who joins us live. Ed Davey, good morning.
Good morning, Ed James.
And thank you for your time. Very nice to speak to you. I want to start off by talking about bins. We've talked about bins a lot on this show, as you can imagine. The leader of the Labour group has claimed, as I'm sure you're aware, he's agreed a deal with Unite over the bin strikes. The union is calling on all parties to agree to that to make sure it becomes a reality after the election. Ed Davey, will the Lib Dems commit to that deal?
Well, we'd like to see it first, but I tell you what, it's a bit rich, isn't it? Been waiting for 2 years or more for this bin strike to be solved, and now we're supposed to believe they've got a solution right at the last minute, just a few days before polling day. Listen, I hope it's right, okay? It's been so appalling for people across the great city of Birmingham, and frankly, Labour have let people down. I think it's desperate, to be honest.
What would you have done, and how would you sort it out?
Well, first of all, as you know, they've not sat down with the unions. Both sides haven't got together for many, many months. And I think that is wrong. They've dispute over what the law actually says. I'm afraid they're allowing people across Birmingham to suffer without sorting this out. If this is, by the way, a genuine solution, yeah, of course people should look at it. But, you know, call me cynical, but I bet your listeners are a bit cynical about whether this is real or not.
Can people in the West Midlands rely on the Lib Dems to get this sorted?
It's top priority. It has to be sorted.
Top priority?
Yeah, of course it must be a priority because, listen, people have suffered. You've seen the pictures, you know it probably better than I do because you come from the West Midlands. I had 2 trips to Birmingham and I talked to people. They were fed up to the back teeth. They thought the council let them down really badly. Some of them weren't happy with the unions either. They just think heads should be knocked together and get round the table and sort it out. And of course it should be a top priority for the next administration. By the way, when I came to Birmingham, I just got a really good response from the campaign from the Liberal Democrats across the city, where contesting all 101 seats, and I think we can have a really good night and make some big net gains actually.
So you would sort out the bin strikes, and we can expect that to happen fairly quickly. What time frame would you put on that if it is a top priority?
Yeah, as soon as possible. It is difficult to put a time frame because you've got to get another side to agree. But it's the first minute of the first hour of the new administration we should focus on it because it unlocks a lot of other things, doesn't it? I mean, the budget in Birmingham has been a disaster. I mean, they've not just mismanaged the bins; they've mismanaged the whole of finances of Birmingham, and unless you sort out these problems, I don't think you'll fundamentally sort out the budget, for which everyone depends on, whether you need adult social care, whether you need your parks sorted out, and we've seen some pretty horrendous decisions for many communities across the city.
What are you expecting in these elections? If we believe the polls, you're not expected to make huge gains. What would success look like for you, Sir Ed Davey?
Well, first of all, I'm always a bit sceptical of polls. People said that to me before the last general election, and we got our best result for 100 years at the general election. And they keep saying, well, look at the polls, and we keep winning in council by-elections. We won more council by-elections last year than any other party. When I was in Birmingham working with the Lib Dem council candidates, they said they were getting a great reception on the doorstep. I really think we're going to have a big gains. I mean, who knows the exact number, but I'm very confident that a lot of people in the city will vote Liberal Democrat and get a great Liberal Democrat councillor who will be their champion.
Is it fair to say you used to be the party of a protest vote and you're not anymore?
Well, I think people vote for us for positive reasons, and they like what we say. I mean, we're the only party, for example, on the national stage standing up to Donald Trump. Nigel Farage and Reform are their biggest cheerleaders, their biggest mates. Kemi Badenoch wanted us to join in Trump's mad war in Iran, and I fear that Keir Starmer has not been strong enough in standing up to the bully in the White House. It's been left to the Liberal Democrats to say, hold on a minute, you are hurting ordinary people in our country. Your mad wars put up petrol prices, diesel prices, your tariffs have hit our businesses. That's not right. You shouldn't treat an ally like that. And when you look at other countries, Ed, who have stood up to Trump, I think they've got a better deal. So Mark Carney, he's the Liberal Prime Minister in Canada. He's been much tougher on Donald Trump, and I think it's been the right approach. We should adopt it here.
There are some that say, though, the special relationship is important for our security.
Oh, it's hugely important. I've always been a big fan of that relationship, but you have to read the room. And Donald Trump is become the worst president of the United States ever. He's an unreliable ally to our country. He puts trade tariffs on our industry. He insults our troops from Afghanistan. He insults the British Navy. He undermines the effort to stop Russia's illegal war in Ukraine. I mean, I just think on every level he's been disastrous. And, I think lots of Americans would like us to stand up to the president because they don't like him either.
From the texts I get here every day, people are concerned about Trump. I think people are most concerned about bins, as we've talked about, but also how expensive everything is here. What will you do to put more money in our pockets?
Well, in the short term, I think we should use the extra money the Chancellor's getting from higher oil and gas prices, because you're getting a bit of a windfall from that. And I think she should recycle that back to families, pensioners, businesses. And the best way to do that would be to cut excise duty on fuel, on petrol and diesel, and get a 12p a litre cut at the pumps. I'd also, in that transport package, affordable from this windfall tax the Chancellor's getting, I'd reduce the cap on bus fares from £3 to £1, and I cut rail fares by 10%. If you do that, you not only help people who are struggling with the cost of living, but you keep the economy moving, making sure there are jobs, making sure businesses succeed. And we're just not seeing that leadership from Labour. We're not seeing anything from Reform or the Conservatives, and it's been left to the Liberal Democrats on Trump, on the economy and the cost of living, and I'd also say on the NHS and social care, to make the running in Parliament.
On that point, and a very brief final question, if, again, as the polls seem to indicate, there will be no overall control, who would you like to work in a coalition with?
Well, first of all, I want to make sure we get lots of Liberal Democrat MPs selected and councillors in Birmingham, and I think we're on the cusp of doing just that.
Who would you choose to work with most, though?
Well, I think people may want to choose to work with us. I think we'll be far stronger than people think.
Sir Ed Davey, really appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Sir Ed Davey, leader of the Liberal Democrats, talking to us live on BBC Radio WM. Apologies, I had to rattle through that because we only get a certain amount of time. I was keen to ask as many questions as I could, so you could hear from all the big noises and the big names in national politics to help make up your mind when it comes to the elections in a week's time.
The former bin worker says he's cautiously optimistic after the leader of Labour-run Birmingham City Council said an end to the city's bin strike is within sight. Unite union members have been on all-out strike in the city for more than a year, and a row over pay and changes to job roles. They're now set to vote on a settlement offer from the council. George Wilson was made redundant by them.
It's good news or it's bad news. Is it just an election campaign thing or is it real? Until the members are given it in writing, it's not real, is it?